Hey everybody, welcome back to Worried to Wealthy. Today what we're going to be going over is VYM, why I used to have it and why I don't anymore. And then we're also going to be going over some of my internet mentors, I guess I would say, that have helped me along the way and inspired me. So without further ado, let's get into it. Of course, I'll start with my disclaimer that this is not financial advice. I'm just a guy on YouTube. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not accredited or licensed with anything like that. I really just want you guys to treat this as entertainment. And again, I say that not only to protect myself, but I also want to protect you guys. I really believe that if you know what you're holding, when a recession comes or whatever it may be, you'll know what you're holding and you'll say, okay, like I know what I'm holding, and it'll have more conviction, and you won't sell good investments just because they drop. And that's why I say that. So again, just treat this as entertainment, guys. But so I'll tell you why I went into VYM, and then I'll tell you why I got out. The reason why I got into VYM is because it didn't have a lot of energy stocks, like ExxonMobil and Chevron are great companies. VIG requires that you have 10 years of dividend increases or more, and you can't be in the top 25%, be in the top 25 percentile of dividend yielders of that group. And you say, well, what's the problem with being in the top 25%? Usually that's a good thing. The reason why in the investing world, you typically, what happens when you have a high yield, that means that something may be up with the company. Um, there's a relationship between share price and dividend. Even if they increase it every year, if the share price goes down, the dividend yield, not the dividend that they pay out, but the dividend yield, the percent that you'll make, goes up. So, for example, if a share price goes up, the dividend yield goes down. If the share price goes down, the dividend yield goes up. And so VIG tries to screen out for the high yielders. For example, and again, Chevron and ExxonMobil, I think, are good companies, but they weren't in it. Now ExxonMobil is actually in VIG, and VIG lets them run until they're in the top 15%. So they can get in as long as they're not in the 25 percentile of dividend stocks, excuse me. And once they get to the top 15%, I have a dividend yield compared to all of its peers, that's when it finally gets kicked out. So it gets some room to run. So that's why I got in. I also got in again. So there's some companies that are high yielders that VIG kicks out that I thought I want to get some, exposure on. But at the end of the day, I got out of it, and I'll show you why in a minute. I had about $21,000. I bought way back when I was buying a whole bunch of it actually. So I bought some in March of 2020. I really wish I would have kept this, but the actually kind of a weird thing is that $94 right now, it's at like 107, hasn't really appreciated all that much. I guess more here when it was at 67. That would have been a nice appreciation. But anyways, so go all the way back. I put about 21,100. I ended up taking out, and the reason why is because I just don't like the holdings. If we go into here, I'll show you guys. You can go through, and I'll go back to page 1 so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. They have pretty good companies in here. All these companies, every single one on this list has increased their dividends for at least 10 or 20 years, something like that. You go to page 2, it's going to be the same thing. All these companies, a lot of them you'll see in VIG as well. A lot of them have increased their dividends for a long, long time. A lot of quality dividend companies, excuse me. Then we get into here, and one of the two that I see, there's 3 that I have examples of: AT&T, Intel, and Ford. And I just don't like investing in companies that cut their dividend. Warren Buffett recently said that at one of his shareholder meetings, and I honestly agree with him that when a company cuts its dividend, it's usually not a good thing. So the first one was AT&T. Back on the dividend Reddit sub, they used to call AT&T like the Death Star. It couldn't be destroyed or anything. It was just an absolute tank. I invested in it for a tiny bit and got out. And I thought it was kind of interesting that they called it the Death Star, because then it actually decreased its dividend. It did have a sale. It sold part of its business to sold Warner Brothers or somebody else. But at the end of the day, if you're an AT&T holder, you got a dividend cut. You did get a Warner Brothers stock, so they did compensate you for that, but they cut their dividend, and they also didn't grow it from 2019 to 2020. So the next one is Intel. As of right now, everything looks all good and dandy, but they actually went ahead. If I go back here, they're cutting their dividend by 66%. And kind of on the same lines of what Warren Buffett said, if they cut their dividend, it's usually not a good thing. And if we go to the share price within the last year, it has definitely been trending down. Not horribly, but it's definitely been trending down. The last one is Ford. I really don't mean to beat up on Ford. I actually really think that it's cool that during, the financial crisis that they didn't take a bailout from the government. I think that's really cool. But as an investor, I just can't take where, starting in 2015 or 16, they're showing both actually here, but it's just up, down, down, and basically almost non-existent and then back up. As someone who wants to live on dividend income, that's not something I'm looking to invest in. The second reason why I'm out on VYM is actually a weird one. So VYM invests in companies. It takes all the dividend stocks that are out there, and basically it takes the top half, top 50%. So it doesn't have to have a streak. As you can see, Ford, Intel, all these companies are in there and they just cut it, but they're still high yielding. Now, on the flip side, Home Depot is back in. If you saw originally when I was going through, I think it was on page 1. But in 2021, it got kicked out. And you're probably thinking, well, why? The reason why is a very interesting one. Basically, within 9 months, this thing went up about 63%, something around there. Yeah, 63%. Now you're thinking, why would that get kicked out? It's doing so well. Well, the reason why, frankly, is because when the share price of a company goes up, the dividend yield percentage goes down. And again, VYM takes the top 50% of dividend yielders, the high dividend yielders, not the low ones. It takes the high ones. And so when a share price goes up that much, then it takes it out. And I just think, frankly, that's kind of dumb. I don't see why you would take Home Depot's a very good stock. So I don't see that. And the third and final reason is what happened to the dividend in general. So this is kind of why I don't hold a SCHD. Again, SCHD didn't go through 08, 09. So, it's kind of hard to tell. But VYM, it holds stocks that basically have cut their dividend. And I'm just not a fan of that. So basically right here, you went from, 2008, then you get a 19% decrease, and then you get a 6.5% decrease. And that's pretty wild. I can't imagine having a 25% decrease when I'm trying to live off the dividends. So I mean, if you're making, let me bring out the calculator, this is rough because I think you'd have to multiply the dividends, the percentages on top of each other. But if you only had, if 25%, 19 plus 6 roughly, was taken out, that's 25%. So you only have 75% left. You went from making $50,000 to now you're making $37,500. And that's a big chunk. That's like $12,500. That's basically $1,000 a month if I'm doing my math right. Yep. So $1,000 a month less. That's not something that I'm interested in. VIG had a negative, right? It was back in, I think it was 2009. It had a negative 4.56. And then it had something that was, just a blip in the radar in 2013. This one had an increase, of course, but especially when times are super rough and you get basically a 25% cut over 2 years, that's not something I'm interested in. So anyways, that's it on VYM. I don't mean to beat up on it too much. A lot of people love this fund, but it's just I'm out because I don't want to lose money, especially when everything else is just going to shambles like it was in 2009, 2010. So As we transition, we're going to transition to my internet mentors. Before I do that, please hit that like button, that little weird thumb in the bottom left-hand corner. If you like this content, if you like what I'm producing, please hit that subscribe channel. I would really, really appreciate it. Helps the little algorithm out as I start to build this channel out. Now, if I actually go into here, my internet mentors are a lot of them. Get this out of the way. But there are a lot of them, frankly. In 2020, I started watching Andrew Jick. Now, he's really, really cool. He's very, very interesting, and he's also really entertaining. And it was actually really inspiring just to see someone like him, get financially independent. Frankly, he does make, I think, like $500,000 now off of YouTube, but beforehand, he was making, money just like us, where I remember at the beginning of my career, I was making like 50K. I think he was making even less than that, and he was able to scrounge every penny that he could. So he comes from pretty humble beginnings. The next one is Gen X Dividend Investor. This is cool because I actually really like watching people that are very transparent and they have high net worth, because it shows me that I can do it. I mean, this guy has like a $2.7 million net worth, and right now he's making about 100K a year on dividends alone. That is the most passive income that you can get out of anything. And the last one that's huge for me is ESI. It's Earn, Save, and Invest. And I used to read these interviews religiously, like every single night. I read, 5 to 10 of them, because basically it has millionaires, and it's anonymous, and they just say, hey, this is where I keep my money. I started out making this, I ended up making this. This is what the career I went into. This is the advice I would give. It'd show like, okay, I bought this kind of house. I never had this, these crazy cars or whatever. A lot of them would say like index fund like investing is the best way to go. Someone would say real estate. A lot of them had a little bit of both. And so I think it's really, really cool. I think you guys should take and look at some of these. I think they're like 3 to 5 minute reads at best. I was actually going to do one of these. There's one for, if I scroll down, I think there is one six-figure interview. So I now make over 6 figures. And it's basically millionaires kind of on the come up. You don't have to be a millionaire. You just have to make $100,000 or more. So I actually submitted one, but I didn't quite reach the word count. So he or she sent me back an email. I was like, you got to redo it. And I honestly forgot it. So I'll probably do it at some other time, just for honestly an ego boost. But it's really, really, really insightful. I'd really take a look at these. Frankly, they're really, really cool. Some other minor shout outs. Not yoga with Adrian. Not big on finance, but Graham, I just started listening to him, so not sure yet. Humphrey's pretty cool. Listened to him recently. Dividend Growth Investing with Jake, really cool. Ryan Williams, he is a great guy. You can tell he just loves doing his content. Take him. I haven't listened to him too much, but I have listened to some of his videos. Definitely quality. He does some book reviews that I'm actually going to be doing too. Not only were these guys my mentors, but the books that I read really, really helped me out. I think I listened to Our Rich Journey a bit, Minority Mindset. That's about it, I would say so far. But yeah, anyways, guys, thank you so much. Again, I'm trying to just get everyone more familiar with investing by opening up my books. I think it would have helped me a ton in my investing journey. Just being like, hey, when someone says, invest your money, and you say where, they're like the stock market or real estate. And it's like, okay, that's great. But like, you guys have told me that before. Where and how do I do it? People usually like, I'll tell you next time or something like that. Or, how much do you have? Like, should I put that much in there? It's like, oh, I got a lot. Well, what does a lot mean? Well, this is everything. This is open book. So I hope it really helps. Anyways, thank you for watching Worry to Wealthy. Hit that like button. And if you like this content, please subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys next time.